All right, hello everyone. Time for our next alphabet challenge game of Marvel Champions. Our next hero that we're going to be playing as today is Rocket Raccoon. Rocket Raccoon is going to be an aggression character, and he's going to have a bunch of weapons that he's going to be playing and putting into play, and most of those weapons are going to be with the keyword, the tech keyword. His alter ego ability is going to let you discard one of those that you have in play to draw cards. Then on his hero side, he is going to, after you deal excess damage to an enemy, draw a card. So he's going to want to do a lot of damage to minions. So he's another character. We haven't played them yet, but Thor and Valkyrie are minion heavy characters. And Rocket is another one where you're going to want minions in play against you to trigger a lot of his abilities. Our villain that we're going to be playing against today is Sandman. On his villain card, all of his attacks are going to deal indirect damage. So it says when Sandman attacks you, the attack deals indirect damage. So that means you can take the damage and split it between your identity and allies that you have in play, as long as the damage you deal to the allies wouldn't be in excess of the amount of health that they have left. So if you have an ally that has 3 health left, you couldn't deal 5 damage to it to try to get it to soak up more of the damage. If it had 3 health left, you could deal at most 3 damage to it. Then, after he attacks you, if any of that indirect damage was able to get to your identity, then you resolve the Surging Sands ability on City Streets. And so City Streets is an environment card that we're going to have in play for the whole game. And that's over here. It comes into play with 4 counters on it. And then as you play the game, the Surging Sands ability is that it's going to add another counter. And then you're going to discard cards from the top of the encounter deck equal to the number of counters that are on it. And then it also has an action that we can do where we can exhaust a character we control to remove sand counters equal to that character's attack. So we can basically attack the sand. Then, since he's going to be discarding a bunch of cards, eventually his deck will run out, and it'll run out more quickly than the villain deck usually runs out. And so when the villain deck runs out, the main scheme gets an acceleration token, and his main scheme, in addition to gaining the acceleration token, has an extra ability when it gains an acceleration token. So it says after an acceleration token is placed on this scheme, deal 3 indirect damage to the first player. So he's got a bunch of different ways to make his deck run out faster. He's got a bunch of different ways to deal indirect damage. And so that's what you're going to be dealing with his scenario. And then he only has this one scheme, so if he is able to complete that scheme, then we just lose. Normally, his encounter requires you to use the standard encounter set, and then there's an encounter set called City and Chaos that you have to use, so that's a required one, which we had used it in a previous game. So you have to use City and Chaos, and then normally you use the Down to Earth encounter set as the modular encounter set. We are not using that one. We're just going to the next one in alphabetical order, which is Kree Militants. So we just used them in a game a few days ago when I played against Ronan, because we just kept his deck the same. But the next one in alphabetical order that we hadn't used in another game yet was Kree Militants. So that is now in his deck. So there are a bunch of minions in the Kree Militants deck, so that will be kind of helpful for Rocket, but those minions are also really difficult. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, let's take a look at my starting hand. I got a decent starting hand because I started with 2 resource cards, which is always good, as long as you have a card to actually spend them on. Then I got a Thruster Boots upgrade. While in hero form, Rocket gets +1 thwart and the aerial trait. I've got a plan. After you make a basic thwart, ready Rocket, and he gets +1 thwart while in hero form until the end of the phase. I got a thwart heavy hand. And then I got Relentless Assault. There's an attack card. Deal 5 damage to a minion. If you paid for this card using a fist resource, this attack gains overkill. And then I got the Psylocke ally. Oops, and she came with the Wolverine pack, I believe. It was either Wolverine or X-23. I'm not sure. I think it's Wolverine. And she comes into play with 2 psionic counters, and when she attacks you, remove 1 to confuse an enemy and deal damage to it. Since I started with 2 resource cards and she costs 4, I think I'm going to play her right away because it's going to be nice to have allies in play with this particular scenario. So she comes into play with 2 psionic counters. And then I don't have any minions, so Relentless Assault is kind of useless right now, unfortunately. I don't need to heal. I don't have anything else I can do in Alter Ego form, so I'm going to go ahead and flip to hero form. And then let's discard I've Got a Plan and play the Thruster Boots, because even though I don't have a minion out right now, I don't want to waste this 5 attack card, just in case I need it later. So then Rocket gets +1 thwart and aerial, so he can thwart for 3, so I will thwart for 3, but it's really only going to remove 2. Well, I could let... she's better at attacking, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and remove 2 with Rocket. And then she can thwart for 2. Or I could remove counters. I haven't played against this scenario in quite a while, and I always forget that you can attack the city streets, even though I just explained it to you. So let's go ahead and do... let's just attack for 2 total. Exhaust a character you control. I can only do it once. Okay, so let's thwart with Rocket. Get rid of those threat. And then exhaust a character you control and remove sand counters from here equal to that character's attack. So I remove 1. And then she doesn't take any consequential damage because she's not actually attacking or thwarting. I'm just exhausting her. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and ready. I'm going to hold on to Relentless Assault, and we're going to draw up to 5 cards. So see what we get. Okay, so I got a battery pack upgrade. It enters play with 2 charge counters, exhaust it, and move a charge counter from this card to another tech card. So most of the weapons come in with counters on them to like represent how much ammo they have, and this card will let you kind of recharge them basically. Kept the Relentless Assault. Here's a weapon finally. Enters play with 2 charge counters, and it has the restricted keyword. We can only have 2 restricted cards in play at a time. The action on it is exhaust it and remove a counter to deal 4 damage to an enemy, gains overkill and ranged. We got the Groot ally. After Groot defends against an attack, heal 2 damage from him. And we got the Sentry ally, which was from the Hulk pack way back when Hulk came out. After he enters play, deal yourself an encounter card. Okay. So he is going to get 1 threat on the main scheme for the beginning of his turn, and then he is going to attack me, and it's going to be for 2 plus a boost card, and it's going to be indirect damage. I think I'm okay with defending it, so I'm going to defend it. So it's 2 plus... resolve this card's when revealed effect. Place 2 sand counters on city streets, then resolve its Surging Sands ability. If at least 1 Sandman card was discarded this way, you are stunned. Gross. Okay, so he's dealing 2 damage. It's indirect. I defended 1. So I'm going to have Psylocke take 1, and then I would take 1 I defended. So I'm not going to take any. And then... so I'm not going to have to resolve the Surging Sands twice at least. So then I'm going to place 2 sand counters on city streets. So I'm going to add 3, take off 1. And then there are 5 sand counters on city streets, so I'm going to discard 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if any of them are Sandman cards, I will be stunned. Is that right? If at least one Sandman card was discarded this way, you are stunned. Pretty high likelihood that at least one of them is going to be a Sandman card. All right, first one, not a Sandman card. Second one, not a Sandman card. Third one, oh my gosh, it's getting my hopes up. Fourth one, oh, there it is, Sandman. Oh man, 4 cards and only one of them was Sandman. That's actually kind of nuts. Okay, that does mean I am stunned. Okay, and then he gives me an encounter card for the round, which is the villain and each minion engaged with you attacks you. Oh, you know what? Surging Sands adds another one, so that would have actually been a 6th card, and that would have been included in the discard. This would have been my encounter card. Okay, calling in favors. When revealed, Rhino schemes. If Rhino is not in play, search the encounter deck and discard pile for the Rhino minion and put him into play engaged with you. I don't think he was one of those cards that came out because he is a Sandman card. Nope. Okay, so we got to find Rhino. And put him in play, which is not great, but hey, it's a minion, which Rocket needs. Okay, Rhino has steady, so he requires 2 status cards to be stunned or confused. And he has a overkill and piercing. Okay. So that was our encounter card for the round. Shuffle the deck, and mine is now my turn. Okay. All right. Being stunned is not ideal because that means anything I do is just going to not count. And that is the case for his weapons too, because they have the attack keyword on them. So that would, oh man, this is not good. So I think at this point I'm going to just have to play allies. So I'm going to play Groot. So I'm going to discard 1, 2, 3 resources and play Groot. And then once per round, I am going to use Groot to remove 2 counters from city streets. And then I am going to let's attack 1 on Sandman with Psylocke and remove a psionic counter to confuse that enemy and deal 1 damage to it. So I deal another damage down to 14 and confuse him. And then since I still have Rhino in play and wasn't able to get rid of him, I think, and since I was able to confuse him, I think I'm going to flip to Alter Ego for him this turn. Make it a little less likely that I'm going to take a bunch of damage. Make it a little less likely that he's going to trigger City and Chaos. Or Surging Sands, I mean. Yeah, okay. And then I can discard a tech upgrade I control to draw 2 cards if I want to. I'll maybe do that at the beginning of my next turn, depending on what I draw from my hand. Okay. All right, so I'm going to hold on to Particle Cannon, and then I'm going to draw 5 cards to get back up to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more. Okay, so I drew Salvage. After you spend this card, put a tech upgrade from your discard pile on top of your deck, and it produces 2 resources. Moment of Triumph. After you attack and defeat an enemy, heal 1 damage from your hero for each point of excess damage. Reload. Ready each tech upgrade you control. Ingenuity. Generate a blue resource once per round. Let's see. Honed Technique. When you play an aggression attack event, if you paid for it using a blue resource, increase the amount of damage it deals by its printed cost. And the Particle Cannon that I held on to. Okay. He gets 1 threat on the main scheme. He is confused, so he cannot scheme. Rhino would scheme, but he schemes for 0. So then I just go straight to getting an encounter card. So my encounter card is Kree Commando. He has patrol, so I cannot remove threat from the main scheme. Okay. More minions. Okay. I think I will go ahead and discard the thruster boots and draw 2 cards. Okay, I drew Looking for Trouble, which is discard cards until you get a minion and remove threat from a scheme, from the main scheme. And then I got Into the Fray, deal 6 damage to a minion for each excess damage. For each excess damage, I get to remove threat from the main scheme. Okay, that was a good use of that draw, I think. Okay. Then I'm not going to heal because I'm at full health. I'm going to flip over, if I can pick up the card, and I'm going to just exhaust to get rid of his stun. Okay. I did not. Never mind. Okay. I am going to use Groot to do 2 damage to let's do it to Rhino. And then I'm going to spend 2 resources from Salvage to play Ingenuity. Put that into play. Oh, hold on. Play only if your identity has the Genius trait, so I would have had to play that while I was still in alter ego form. Okay, so I could have done that at the beginning of my turn because he has Genius on his alter ego side. Okay, so I'm going to play that while I was in alter ego form, then I'll flip over. Okay, and then I used Salvage. After you spend this card, put a tech upgrade from your discard pile on top of your deck. So I'm going to take the thruster boots that I discarded at the beginning of my turn and put those on top of my deck. Okay. Then I'm going to use Ingenuity as a blue resource. Plus 1, 2 resources from my hand to play into the fray. Deal 6 damage to a minion, and it's not going to deal any excess damage, but that's fine. I did forget to give Groot his 2 attack. So I'm going to deal 6 damage to Rhino just to get rid of him. And that didn't deal any excess damage, but that's fine. Just needed to get him off the board. Okay, and then for my once per round, I'm going to use Psylocke to remove 1 counter from City Streets. And then I think that's going to be it for that turn. And I still have Moment of Triumph. I didn't want to play it because it's after you defeat an enemy, heal a damage from your hero. I think that's the card. I'm going to discard that card. I'm going to hold on to Reload and Particle Cannon and then draw 3 cards to get back up to 5. So I'm going to go ahead and ready everything and draw 3 cards. So I knew for sure I was going to draw the Thruster Boots because I put them on top of my deck. And then, okay, so I drew another Moment of Triumph, so I'm kind of glad that I discarded the other one. Kept Reload, and then I knew I was drawing the Thruster Boots. I held on to Particle Cannon, and then I drew the Lockjaw ally. You may play Lockjaw from your discard pile during your turn, paying his normal cost. Okay. All right, so he gets 1 threat on the main scheme. And then he is doing his attack against me of 2 plus a boost card. And I will also take 2 damage from the Kree Commando. But I want to try to prevent him from doing the Surging Sands ability, so I am going to... I could just have Groot defend it. And then he might not die, and he might heal. So let's have Groot defend it. And he's going to take 2 plus 0. So he takes 2 damage, but then after he defends, he heals 2 damage. And then his attack didn't deal any damage to my identity. So he does not resolve Surging Sands. But the boost effect on this card is that we reveal this card, attach to Sandman. When you would deal any amount of damage to him, discard this card instead and resolve the Surging Sands ability. So he's just got an Uber Shield basically, so we want to basically hit him for 1 damage to get rid of this if we can. Okay. Then I take 2 damage from the Kree Commando, which is not indirect damage. So I will just take that, go down to 7. And then we get an encounter card, which is Now or Never. Place 1 acceleration token on the main scheme or exhaust a character you control and spend 1 resource of any type. I don't want to give him an acceleration token. So I will exhaust Psylocke. I think that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so then it is my turn. And I'm going to spend a resource from Ingenuity, plus 1 from Lockjaw, plus 1 more from the Thruster Boots. And I'm going to play the Particle Cannon. And that comes in with 2 counters. And when I use it, it will deal 4 damage to an enemy. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to attack. No. I'm going to use my once per round. Rocket is going to remove a counter from city streets. Then I'm going to exhaust the particle cannon and remove a charge counter from it to deal 4 damage to the Kree Commando. Then I'm going to spend a resource from my hand and play Reload to ready my tech upgrades, which is just the particle cannon, and I'm going to use it again. This attack gains overkill and ranged. So I'm going to do 4 damage here again. The 2 damage that is left that would normally go to Sandman is going to hit the sand form attachment instead. So it is going to discard this card and resolve the Surging Sands ability. So he's going to get 1 counter and discard 3 cards. Got past advance and a side scheme. Sweet. Okay. And then that's going to be the end of my turn. So we're going to go ahead. Oh, and then this card, since it ran out of counters, gets discarded. Okay. And then I'm going to draw cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's see what I drew. All right, so I got another Looking for Trouble, so I can go find a minion if I need one. I got a player side scheme called Lock and Load. Each player may search their deck and discard pile for a weapon upgrade with a cost of 3 or less and put it into play. I'm probably going to want to do that. I've got a plan. We already talked about that one. Rocket's Pistol, exhaust it to remove 1 charge counter and deal 2 damage to an enemy. And it starts with 3 counters. And then into the fray, deal damage to a minion. So next round, I might be going to find a minion unless I already get one from the encounter round. We'll see. Okay, so he gets 1 threat on the main scheme. And then he is attacking me again with indirect damage. I'm going to have Groot defend it again. So he's hitting for 2, 3, which is perfect. So Groot will take that whole attack of 3, which does not kill him, thankfully. And then he will heal for 2. Okay. And then I get an encounter card for the round, which is Kree Combat Armor. Attach the enemy with the highest attack. There's only 1 enemy in play. Reduce the amount of damage attached character takes from each attack by 1. Spend 3 resources of the same type to discard this card. Okay. Then it is my turn. All right, well, I didn't find a minion, so I guess we'll go find one. So Looking for Trouble. Put that minion into play, engaged with you, remove 3 threat from the main scheme. So we'll see what minion we get here. There should be plenty. It's just a matter of how bad it's going to be. Another Kree Commando. Okay. This is important. That might not work. Okay, so let's look at the timing here. So Looking for Trouble says discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a minion. Put that minion into play engaged with you. And then arrow, remove 3 threat from the main scheme. So I don't think I can thwart the main scheme. So I'm just getting the card. I do not get to remove the threat because I pulled a patrol card, and this specifically has the thwart keyword. If it didn't have the thwart keyword, then I would be able to ignore that. That's unfortunate. Oh shoot, I have been forgetting about that. That's unfortunate. It probably wouldn't have mattered yet. After I deal excess damage to an enemy, I'm supposed to draw a card. All right, well, I'll have to remember that. Okay. Then I'm going to want to play... I'm going to want to kill that enemy. So I'm going to spend 1 resource and put Rocket's pistol into play. And that comes in with 3 counters. And I'm just going to use one of them right away and deal 2 damage to an enemy. So we'll do that to the commando. And then we will use Psylocke as our once per round to remove a counter from city streets. Let's see. Then we'll do 1 from Ingenuity, plus 1 to play into the fray. Deal 6 damage. 4 of it will go to him. For each point of excess damage, remove 1 threat from the main scheme. So I'm doing 4 excess damage, so that's 4 off the main scheme. And then I dealt excess damage, so I draw a card, since I've been forgetting that. Okay, I drew Side Holster. You can control 1 additional weapon upgrade that has the restricted keyword. I'm going to hold on to that for now since I don't have any more in my hand anyway. I'm going to hold on to that just in case it matters for need it for a resource later. And then I could attack with Rocket, but it wouldn't do anything because he only attacks for 1 and he has the armor. So I've got all this stuff, and I keep dealing with the minions fine, but I've dealt 2 damage to Sandman. Like, I need to get some more damage on him. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and ready and draw my cards. So I draw up to 5. Alright, so I held on to the Side Holster. I drew Relentless Assault, deal 5 damage to a minion. If you paid for it using her fist, it gains overkill. Cybernetic Skeleton, you get plus 3 hit points, and he gets plus 1 attack. Definitely going to want to play that. Warrior Skill, when your hero attacks or remove a counter from here, it deals 1 additional, and then I got another Into the Fray. Okay, he gets 1 threat on the main scheme. He is attacking me for 2. It's pretty likely that Groot will die this time, but we're still going to have him try. So 2, 4. Yep, so that takes him out. It is indirect damage, so only 2 of it. 3 of it. 3 of the 4 can go to Groot, and then the other 1 has to go to someone else. So if I give it to Rocket, then he will get to do the Surging Sands ability. If I give it to Psylocke, she'll die, but I think I'm going to go ahead and give it to her anyway. Just try to keep him from discarding his deck too quickly. Okay, and then I get an encounter card. Long shot, free ally, and that gains Surge. Kree Commando. Well, I certainly am not having a shortage of minions, but at least now this one came in with Patrol, and it's not that big of a deal. Now it only has 1 threat on it. Okay, I did not get another weapon in my hand, so I am going to use the Side Holster as a resource. So I'm going to discard that as 1 resource plus... Oh, hold on. Let's do this first. I'm going to exhaust Rocket's pistol to deal 2 damage to the Kree Commando. And then... Man, I really need to get rid of that Kree combat armor. But 3 resources of the same type would basically make my turn useless right now. Then I will pay 1 from Ingenuity, plus 1 with Side Holster to play the cybernetic skeleton, giving me +3 hit points and +1 attack. So I go back up to 10 health, and my max is now 12. And it also gives me +1 attack. So I'm going to use that +1 attack to do 2 damage to the Kree Commando. And then let's do 2 resources from my hand to play Relentless Assault with the Fist resource, so I deal 5 damage to the Kree Commando with Overkill. So 5 damage, 2 of it is going to him. The other 3 is going to Sandman, but only 2 of it is actually going to go through because of the combat armor. But then I dealt excess damage to an enemy, so I get to draw a card. I drew an energy resource card. And then the last thing I will do is I can either thwart or attack with Longshot. His attacks are piercing, which doesn't matter right now. He would only thwart for 1. He would only attack for 1. I think I'm going to leave him up just so he doesn't take the consequential damage, so it's more likely that he will actually be able to help me with defending against the indirect damage. Okay, and then I'm going to draw my hand to 5 cards. I'm keeping energy, drawing up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I kept the energy. I drew another salvage, got another battery pack. I got Schadenfreude until the end of the turn. Heal 2 damage from rocket each time you deal any amount of damage to an enemy. And then I got a rocket launcher weapon. Exhaust it, choose a player, deal 2 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with that player. Okay, so then he gets 1 threat on the main scheme. And then he's going to attack me. I'm going to have Longshot defend it. He's attacking for 2. Nice. Only 2. So Longshot does not die. So I can deal both of it to him. And then I get an encounter card, which is Sand Smash. In hero form, Sandman attacks me with +1 attack. All right, this time I will have to have Rocket defend it. So he's attacking for 3, 4, 5. So that means 4 damage has to go through. I'm going to give 1 of it to Longshot, 3 of it to me. Longshot dies. And we have to do the Surging Sands, so it gets a counter, and then we discard 3. Oh, there was a minion. And another one. All right, then it is my turn. Okay, I definitely am gonna want to get rid of that armor. I think I'm going to do that this round. So I'm going to spend 3 resources of the same type to get rid of that armor, because that has been annoying. Then I'm going to spend 3 resources, including salvage, to put the rocket launcher into play. Enters play with 2 charges. And then after you spend this card, put a tech upgrade from your discard pile on top of your deck. Oh, oops. I accidentally put Longshot in my discard pile instead of the villain's discard pile. All right, so I've got a battery pack, a thruster boots, particle cannon, Those are my 3 choices for tech upgrades I can put on top of my deck. I think I'm going to do the battery pack so that I can maybe keep that rocket launcher around a little bit longer. Or it does only do 2 damage at a time. Let's put the particle cannon back on top, actually. It's a little more expensive, but that's fine. Okay. Then I will use Rocket's Pistol to do 2 damage to Sandman. Finally can actually just do damage to Sandman. I will exhaust the rocket launcher and do 2 damage to Sandman and every minion engaged with me, which is none. And I think that's it for that turn. Do I want to flip to Alter Ego this turn? How many cards do I have in my deck? I have 7 cards in my deck, so I would be safe. Yeah, let's go ahead and flip to Alter Ego form. Just give me a little bit better hand for next round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I also don't have any allies anymore to protect me against his attacks, which is unfortunate. Okay. Let's see what I got. So I knew for sure I was drawing the particle cannon because I put that on top. Then I drew Power of Aggression, which is kind of useless in the hand I just drew because the only red card I drew is a free card. After you defeat an enemy, heal damage for each point of excess damage. Reload, we've seen that. Another Rocket's Pistol. Flora and Fauna I got after Groot was in play. I had them both in play, but that's unfortunate. Or place 2 charge counters on a Raccoon upgrade, so that'll just be a resource. And then I got the particle cannon. Okay, I should ready my stuff. All right, and then I will give him 1 threat. And then he will scheme against me for 1. 4. Ouch. That could have been bad. All right. And then encounter card is Sand Clone. X is equal to the number of sand counters on city streets. When defeated, resolve Surging Sands. All right, then it is my turn. Do I want to discard a card I control to draw 2 cards? No. Do I want to heal? Sure, I will heal for 3. And then I will flip. All right, then let's do a resource from the Power of Aggression to play Rocket's Pistol with 3 counters on it. And I will just use 1 right away to deal 2 damage to the Sand Clone. And then let's spend 1 from Ingenuity plus 2 from my hand for 3 to play the Particle Cannon. Oh, I can only have 2 restricted cards, so I should use this first. Remove to deal 2 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with that player. So I might as well use that first since I can only have 2 restricted cards. So I'll deal 2 to the Sand Clone, which is excess damage. So the Sand Clone dies, and since that's excess damage, I get to draw a card. And I drew the Mockingbird ally. All right, and then I need to put 2 counters on here. I'm going to use 1. Okay, sorry about that. I have this wonderful tackle box that I have all of my tokens organized into, but that only helps if I don't throw it across the room like I just accidentally did. Just had to play 200 token pickup. Okay, I lost track of what I was doing. I think, so I had killed the sand clone. It dealt excess damage, so I drew a card. Then I played this, took a counter off, and I'm going to deal 4 damage to an enemy. And I'm going to deal that to Sandman. And then, since I was able to draw a card, I'm going to use that card that I drew as a resource to play Reload and ready all of my tech upgrades. So I'm going to do that. And then he's at exactly 4 health left, so I'm going to use Particle Cannon to knock him down to 0. And go to his second stage. When revealed, resolve the Surging Sands. So he goes up to 4 counters and then discards 4 cards. And that's probably going to be enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, he had exactly 4 left. So he's going to gain his acceleration token. So I have to take 3 indirect damage. I have no one to split it with, so I just take 3. 1, 2, 3. And then he resets to 18 health. And I don't want to take attacks from him, but he's 2 threat away from, oh boy, yeah, if he gets any extra threat other than the one he's guaranteed, oh, he's going to no matter what because of that acceleration token. Shoot. So maybe I don't want to do that then. Okay, so let's give him those 4 cards back. I unfortunately don't really have a way to remove threat at the moment. I'll put that particle cannon back in play with 1 counter on it. And I'm not going to reload. So he'll be back at 4 health. I need to remove some threat first. I think I'm going to lose anyway because he's so high already because I don't really have any way to remove any right now. So I'm just going to hold on to these 2 cards. I'm not going to flip to Alter Ego form because then he will definitely end the game. I really hate most of these villains that have only one main scheme because, especially when you're playing with solo, like it feels like 90% of the time you lose because they only have that one scheme. Like it ends up like when you're playing, especially when you're playing as an aggression character. That's why aggression characters are so low win percentage for me, I believe, just because like you have to spend so much of your time thwarting. Like I've spent 90% of my time killing minions and thwarting, and so I've done 14 or 11 damage to him or 12 damage to him, whatever it is. And I don't know. I always hate these villains that only have one scheme because like if he was 2 scheme away from getting to his second stage, his second scheme, then I would be fine with knocking him down to 0 right now and letting him have that acceleration token because I wouldn't immediately lose, right? Like, and then there would be, for those villains that have more than one main scheme, there's always, or usually, there's some kind of negative consequence for letting them get to that second scheme. That isn't just losing. Like, I know that you have to have a way to lose eventually, but it feels like in a game where your goal is to attack them down to 0, their goal of attacking you down to 0 and their goal of trying to accomplish their scheme should be equal, and it never is. Like, you very rarely lose this game because you get knocked down to 0 health. It is almost always, like, I would say 97% of the time you lose this game because they scheme, which that's the way they wanted the game to go, and that's fine. But having played the game now 250 times, I still love it. But that is becoming something that I am a little frustrated with now, having played the game so much, is that in a game that has 2 lose conditions, one of them is non-existent, basically, which is just frustrating. I had to shuffle my deck because I ran out of cards, and I'm drawing 3 more cards. And then since I had to shuffle my deck, I will have to take an extra encounter card this round. And let's see what I got in my hand. Okay, so I held on to Reload and Mockingbird. I drew I've Got a Plan, got a resource card, and I redrew Groot. Okay. We will see what happens. We'll see if I even make it to my next turn. All right, so he gets 1 threat. So he's already up to 8. And then he is attacking me for 2 plus a boost card. I'm going to defend it with Rocket. So he hits me for 2 plus 0 is 2. I take 1. So he now discards 4 cards. But it's not going to be as many this time. It's only going to be 2. He gets the acceleration token anyway. And then deals me 3 indirect damage, so I take 3. And then he has to shuffle. And we will get 1 more encounter card. We'll resolve those 2 encounter cards, and if either of them add threat, we lose. If we can make it through this turn, I have ways that I can thwart, but I believe that I had to be able to do a basic thwart, which I can't. So I'll have to play the Groot ally to have any way to remove threat, I think. Oh boy. All right, so we'll see what our 2 encounter cards are. It might not matter because I might just lose right now. Okay, so encounter card number 1 is Shadow of course. Why not? Okay, so I got Blackjack O'Hare. He's got Quick Strike. He, when he activates, he has Villainous, so he hits me for 1 plus 2. Hey, look, I complained about it too much, and it happened. 1, 2, 3. I got knocked out. I complained about it so much that the game was just like, fine, here, you want to die? If you want to lose by dying, fine. That's funny. Oh, man. I am on quite the losing streak solo. That is the, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th game in a row that I've lost. Oh, my God. I did not realize it was that many. 7 solo losses in a row. Oh, I was just telling a friend of mine that I play with multiplayer. We've won 3 games in a row multiplayer, and I was just like, I'm glad because I cannot win solo to save my life right now. So, all right. Next is going to be a matchup that actually works thematically. Is going to be Rogue versus the Sentinels versus Project Wide Awake. So that will be our next scenario. I'm glad that this scenario actually went longer than 10 minutes before I lost, so you could actually see Rocket play out a little bit. He's really fun. That's the only thing I don't like about the minion characters is yes, if you have minions in the scenario, they work well, but then that's all you do is basically just attack minions and you don't do anything else, it feels like. So whatever. Playing this game as much as I do, you're bound to get frustrated with a little bit. I'm probably going to take a little bit of a break from these videos, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. Just let myself kind of reset a little bit because I'm getting a little frustrated with losing 7 solo games in a row. Yeah, so next one will be Rogue versus the Sentinels, Project Wide Awake, and we'll go from there. All right, thanks, guys.